to Raconteurs News.
Good evening and welcome to this festive edition of Raconteurs News. And not only is it festive, but it's actually a bit of a celebration for us personally because it's this week that Raconteurs News started last year. We made the announcement on Christmas Eve or thereabouts, and we did the first live show on the 29th of December last year. Although we did do a brief one on Christmas Day, I think. There was just a few of us drunks on Skype having a chat away, and we introduced things. So thanks to everyone for all your support for the first year. And I suppose if I ought to be thanking anybody, it ought to be this chap who's I'm sat here looking at now, Jason. Thanks for all you've done for the last year, mate.
Oh, listen, mate, it's been cracking, hasn't it? And I do very, very little at all. I just go on here and talk nonsense every week. So it's a team effort. We've got a great team of people, and things are changing. Things have changed beyond notice, I would imagine.
Well, things have definitely changed because I did see it was breaking news just before we came on there that the Keith Richards, the Rolling Stones legend, has actually been found alive. Oh,
right. Oh, excellent. Oh, well, it's been a bit... this festive period's been a bit jinxed, shall we say. I mean, we've lost Nana off the royal family. Mm-hmm. George Michael farted, didn't he, on Christmas Day, so...
Yeah, last Christmas I gave you my heart.
Yes.
Obviously, that's just a coincidence. Like.
And last Christmas, my heart gave in. I think next year is what it'll be. What'll be number one? But yeah, it's been interesting, hasn't it, to say the least. A lot of people will be glad to see the back of 2016. A lot of people that people know personally.
Well, that's it. I mean, we've had so many stories on over the years of people who've been going through all kinds of hardship, and I'd like to also thank everyone who's been a guest on this show over the year. We've had some absolutely phenomenal guests. I know you posted your favourite show of the year on Facebook, didn't you?
Yes, I certainly did, yes. That's my standout one of this year, I think, for me. I really enjoyed doing that one.
I did notice when you posted it that Diane Jessie Miller commented on it within a minute and said how she'd like to come back on. So I've sent her a message, and hopefully we'll get that sorted out sometime after January, because we're fully booked for January.
Fully, but everyone wants to be a raconteur. That's the problem.
That's it, yeah. Well, tonight we've got a guest who's been on before several times, but we've also got someone who hasn't been on before. So without us waffling on much longer, I'd like to welcome to Raconteurs News, welcome back Guy Taylor, and also welcome Paula Parker. Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
So, Paula, Guy contacted me a few weeks back and mentioned the outline of your story. For the listeners, would you like to give us a bit of a rundown of what exactly is going on and how it all started initially?
Right, well, how it all started was in 2014 we'd finished paying an endowment mortgage. The end of the term come up. But unfortunately, they seem to have lost the insurance part.
Oh!
We should have paid the last part off. Nobody seems able to locate it. So it's been going to and from court. The brief outline of it is in July the 1st of this year, we were evicted.
Uh-huh.
After about 3 weeks, we came back. Because we didn't know that this was going off everywhere until just an acquaintance of ours at the time, Mr. Peter Turner X, sort of highlighted it because he knew Tom Crawford and various other people.
Yeah.
So he said, well, go back to your house. It's your house. We learnt a bit more. I mean, we went to see Mark Stallone as well. He was a bit of help there. And things went on from there. But in August 18th, we came to evict us again. At which point Peter turned up. We knew they were coming. Peter turned up. We had an all-day session with the bailiffs and the police. But they were eventually turned away. And this went on till October the 4th. I've wrote various letters as well, but October the 4th, they came unannounced one morning. I was ill at the time. I suffered from migraines. And when they really set off, I have fits and everything. I'm a mess.
Oh dear, that's terrible.
I was ill that morning. Michael had gone out to work, came back. He'd done a school run. And he came back and come to the house, and there's all these police here. So he come through the door to see how I was, at which point he was promptly arrested and taken away.
Wow.
The bailiffs carried me out and dumped me on the driveway. And the house was shuttered up. You know, we had the green shutters on.
Yeah.
Doors, windows, everything else. So that night we came back with a grinder and cut them off, and in we come.
Oh, excellent. And how's that worked out since then, Paula?
Yeah, well, we had another eviction, or attempted eviction, December the 1st.
Yeah.
So the bailiffs came, accompanied by the police, to which there was me and my sister-in-law here. The house has always got at least 2 people in it. And there was me and my sister-in-law, and they'd blocked the door up and that. But anyway, they knocked the door in. But we've set a few booby traps this time. I've got an house full of booby traps. It's quite... We only really managed to balloon them, to be honest with you. You know, we've got chili in them and food colouring and all sorts of different things in them. So, we drowned one of the bailiffs and one of the police officers, and they promptly naffed off out, because, you know, that was the deal. Clear off out, you're trespassing.
Yeah.
And we had a standoff all day, but they called for the response team and negotiators and ambulances, and we had security people here, and you name it, we had it. So that was, quite an eventful day, but they cleared off again in the end anyway. But all along we've been saying, show me the warrant. Show me the law that says you can do this, and show me the warrant. They can't show you the law because there's not one. There isn't a law to evict you. Homeowners, you know.
Yeah.
And there's no warrant. There is no known warrant, so I know they've not got one.
Of course.
But eventually the negotiator managed to talk him in to show me son. He was outside. He showed him the so-called warrant, which is for, as I believe, it's for commercial property. So that didn't go down very well either. But, I mean, Roger Hayes and Guy Taylor, they've been brilliant in giving me some advice, you know, but I think we're at the point at the minute that nobody quite knows what to do with us. I've been to court various times. I've been turned down. The judge, it always goes to the same judge. And on the last occasion I tried to get I think it was a set-aside order, I can't remember now, I've been for 1 or 2 things. And I put it in at the court, the desk, and she said, oh, we'll go and process it. And off she toggled. And I got a call over the tannoy to go to the court, which is upstairs in Leicester County Court, which I thought was a bit odd. But I went upstairs and, the judge wants to see you. I went in to see the judge, same judge, and he told me that there is no way I will ever get anything heard in court. To which I said, well, that's okay then. That's your opinion. And he said, that's my opinion as a judge. I said, no, that's your personal opinion. I will be in court at some point. You can tell your monkeys downstairs, because that's where the bailiffs are. Tell your monkeys downstairs that, I'm not moving out of my house.
Good for you.
That's my home. And I walked out. But, I get no joy from the courts at all. The police have sent various letters too. And I've sent them to the crime commissioner. I've sent them to the chief constable. And I've asked them to, I was polite. The first letter was polite. The second one was not so polite. And the last one was a bit unpolite, really. And I just told them to do the job.
Well, that's quite understandable, really. They're messing you about. They're causing, not only messing you about, they're causing your family absolute misery. Probably one of the most difficult times a year. You're bound to get a bit frustrated and slightly irate at that, I would have thought.
Extremely. I mean, I've had a granddaughter that's been in and out of hospital over the last month. I've not been able to go over and see her. I went Christmas Day because I know that's the one day that the bailiffs can't come. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I personally have not really been out of the house at all. And we've got it quite well barricaded. It's like Fort Knox at the minute. So if they want to come, they've really got to break in.
So you're currently barricaded in your own house?
Yes. Yeah. But the alternative is I hand it over to them, to which I'm not going to do.
No, I don't blame you. I suppose this might be a good point to bring Guy in. Is there anything that you'd like to add to this, Guy?
Well, I mean, the bottom line is, Andy, we've established now through the fact that they haven't got any paperwork in these matters. These bailiffs never have warrants. They use violence to secure entry when it's clearly against the law to do so. There's no law anymore. There's only enforcement. And the police and the bailiffs are knowingly committing these crimes. And the police are facilitating this stuff going on. I've been saying that it's like the Wild West out there, but it's getting to be Mad Max now. Where at least in the Wild West, you might have had a bent, crooked family running the show. I mean, it's Mad Max land now. They're robbing everything. I mean, they're robbing boats, they're robbing cars, and they're robbing houses. And it's only people like Paula and Mick standing up to these characters and causing them trouble and asking questions. I mean, we realised after Tom Crawford's case where we had 300 people turn up, peaceful demonstration, the bailiffs didn't even turn up. Then we had 700 people turn up, peaceful demonstrations, wrong word, peaceful support for them. And then they eventually came in strength and they enforced what they could. And that's what we're up against. We're up against criminality.
Mm. Yeah, well, we see the failings in the court all the time. I mean, I've got a classic example last week. There's a guy who's been on the show a couple of times before, Andy Mackey. He's a great friend of mine. And we went up to Leeds Crown Court to support him. And there was a case in there that there were 5 test cases being heard of lads that had been abused in the care of a home owned by the Diocese of Middlesbrough. Now, 3 of those cases were dismissed as having not enough evidence. One guy was awarded £14,000 because he was raped as a child, but wasn't allowed to get any more money because the judge said that he quite clearly had no psychological distress from that. And I'm thinking, what? And then there was another case which was due to be announced after lunch, but we went back at 2 minutes past 2, and the court was all locked up and in darkness. So what on earth happened there, I don't know. And then the judge decides that there are 249 outstanding cases in that particular case, which will be heard at a rate of 5 per year. These guys are already knocking on the door of 50, so they're all going to be dead by the time they get the cases heard, and I think that's what the plan is. They're trying to ignore them, so they'll just go away, whereas your case, they just keep trying to railroad you and over again using the same script, don't they?
Yeah, we had it. The last time they came to evict us, it was unannounced, but I knew they'd be coming because Mick was in court that day for assault on a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, when he tried to come through the door, he brushed by one of them, and that's classed as assault. To which he said after, "I wish I had have assaulted him," but that's by the by. But
that's just an example of how pathetic they are. They're just pathetic. They hide behind their own force. That's all they do.
Yeah.
Sorry,
well, I knew they'd be coming. I knew they'd come that day. They did come a little bit earlier than I thought they would.
Mm-hmm.
But I was prepared anyway. But we were holed up all day, and like I say, after the initial coming in, they decided they weren't going to try that again because we'd got a few more things that, which I don't want to tell you about in case anybody's listening. That
No, obviously we don't want to give away your little secrets. You need to keep your powder dry in the face of the enemy, don't you?
I was a bit disappointed, really, that we didn't get to try out the other things because the balloon thing were brilliant.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Home Alone, you know what I mean?
Mm.
So it's we were quite looking forward to it. But I mean, there was reports that they were going to storm us. They'd parked out the way, you see, because I put it on live stream, and I told them it was on live after a while, on the Facebook Live, and. But most of the vans and everything had parked round the corner, so we couldn't get them on. It only shows a few cars in the street.
Oh, I see.
But I've got people ringing me up and telling me what was there, what had turned up. And when they said, the response and everything have turned up now, they're going to storm you. So it's okay, we're ready. I say if they're going to get us out, we're not stupid. We know if they really want to get us out, they're going to get us out,
Yeah.
But I'm going to put up a fight this time, a proper fight. But they never... I mean, I threw a few bits and pieces at them, and I gave them paperwork to read. Dropped it out the window to them, read that. Which, and Peter was outside, and he was throwing a bit of legislation at them as well, and they kept calling it off, and then it was on, and then it was off, and I don't think they quite knew what to do with us. Because they didn't get the reaction that they thought they were going to get in the first place. But I asked one of the police when he was outside, I said, "Are you on your oath?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Right." I said, "But you can't come here today, I believe, breach of the peace." And he said, "Yeah." I said, "But have you come to assist the bailiffs?" And he said, "Yeah," and he nodded his head. I said, "But you're not here to assist them. You can't assist them."
Mm.
But they don't quite know. I don't think the police know what they're supposed to be doing.
No. I remember, I think it was Paul Webster said when they turned up at his house, he got out of his car, went up to the policeman, and as soon as he spoke, he said, "Are you here today as bailiff or peacekeeper?" He said, "Oh, peacekeeper." Yeah. He said, "Oh, thank you, your opinion is not warranted." And he said the guy never spoke again.
Yeah. Well, we had one or two that kept saying, "Well, if you come downstairs, we can show you this warrant." I said, "Do you think I'm stupid?"
Yeah, we know what happens when you come to the letterbox, don't we, Jason?
We certainly do know what happens. Yes, we do. It's that they're a law unto themselves, and it's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
I noticed the news last week that they're going to need a degree now. So every copper is going to go through a course and get a degree in policing. So what they're going to do is they're going to just completely train them into something that's not, just what they want. It's just ridiculous.
They'll grow a brain. That's what they'll do. They'll be trained in for a certain subject and think they've grown a brain on the subject, and then start issuing orders to us.
Yeah.
I'm glad you spoke up there, Guy, because
telling us that we were trespassing.
Oh, how ridiculous!
How did you figure that out?
I'm glad you spoke up there, Guy, because somebody in the chat room says, "What's happened to Guy? Have they gagged him?"
Oh, right, no. I mean, where this is all going, no, don't worry, it's just those people have got things to say, man. Where this is all going is this, which I've always said, if the civil court's failing, if you turn it into a criminal action, then that's the only way we're going to get any remedy out of these situations, in front of juries, yeah? Mm-hmm. And of course, what's happening, so like when the people went on the roof to protest for Tom, it went to Crown Court, they were charged with conspiracy to commit criminal damage, all 7 of them, and all 7 of them, the case was kicked out after a week because they couldn't produce the warrant.
Yeah.
Now, the same applies in all these matters. And if they've got a barrister or a solicitor representing you, they can't go behind the county court judgments, even if the county court judgments have been faked, because they're officers of the court. So what eventually is going to happen, and it's going to, the way it's going, I can see it, is that a bailiff is going to get shot, or something very serious is going to happen. Mm-hmm. The person who does the action is going to say, I've got lawful excuse, because they haven't got no paperwork. They're going to represent themselves in court, because there's no good having a lawyer represent you, because they won't be able to bring this issue up. They won't be able to produce the warrant. The jury's going to acquit them, but before that, the judge will probably kick the case out. And they'll say it was based on some technicality. The technicality being that they didn't do their bookwork. They haven't got the documents. So what they do is, and I know that Mick, Paula's other half, is charged with the police officer incident, exactly the same circumstances as Tom. And Tom was found not guilty when it went to the court in front of for the assault.
Yeah. What
they do is they try and charge you with a summary-only offence, so that you can't go to Crown Court in front of a jury. It's summary only, so you can't get the. So what happens is, like with Tom's case recently, he was charged with criminal damage, even though he told them he did a burglary. He said he did criminal damage in the commission of a burglary. But they still didn't charge him with burglary, they charged him criminal damage, and the criminal damage was under £5,000. It had to be heard in the magistrate's court. So it gets heard in the magistrate's court, and he gets found guilty, because the magistrate's court isn't listening to what he's saying regarding lawful excuse. Now, Tom's plea is lawful excuse.
Yeah.
So then appeals it goes to the Crown Court. Well, that goes in front of a judge and 2 magistrates. Well, the judge can't find you not guilty under lawful excuse. It needs a jury to do that. So the judiciary have got a complete conflict of interest when it comes to the plea of lawful excuse, because the jury is entitled to make a perverse verdict. The jury is the law, not the judge. And so this is where the whole situation is going and getting very serious. And of course, the police are just following orders. The bailiffs, but they must, when they're being like Paula and Mick have done, is they know the criminal laws that they're breaking. They're facilitating violence and securing entry when it's not allowed. So it's not, they're not just breaking the law, they're breaking their own rules, their own regulations. And like Jason was saying earlier, they make it up as they go along. Mm-hmm. And it's getting more obvious, and it's Paula and Mick that are standing their ground, really, that we're having an effect where people are questioning their documents. And I don't know how much longer this nonsense can go on for, because it's going on everywhere, and not just property. It's going on with property, but like as a Riverboat Trust, what they did with Lee Ravenscroft, and he's got them in court now, and what's going on with the Liverpool Lightship, a ship that got stolen from the Liverpool docks and taken to.
Oh, we seem to be having a bit of trouble with bandwidth there. Can you knock your camera off, please, Jason? It might just help, because we're having a bit of difficulty getting Guy.
No worries.
Are you there still, Guy?
I mean, no worries, Andy.
Oh, yeah, sorry, it was just breaking up a little bit there. We're struggling with bandwidth.
Yeah, no problem, mate. So, I mean, it's going in this direction, and people are waking up fast and furious to what's going on. Matt attack me daily now. It's going on everywhere.
Well, it's good that people are waking up, Guy, that's for sure. Do you think there's enough of them waking up to actually make the difference that's needed? Because we need the numbers, don't we?
Oops, I think we might have lost Guy there.
The information is.
No, there we go.
I think there's going to be riots before too long. I think people are too frightened to demonstrate in what they think is the legal way, and I think it's just going to take people to get together and do a march without notifying everybody and just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've got lawful excuse to protect ourselves and our property. Yeah, so you can commit any crime if you've got.
Oh, such a shame. I think we keep losing you there, Guy.
Right. You got me?
Yeah,
Yep.
we got you back now, mate. Yeah, you said that...
yeah, we've got lawful excuse.
Sorry, go on, Guy.
Yeah, we've got lawful excuse to protect ourselves and our property. And so we can commit a crime. We've got a lawful excuse, and this is where they're not recognising it. You know, this is why we know they don't recognise common law anymore. Now they're not recognising their own rules, and they're just making it up as they go along.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite. We've seen a lot of evidence that year and this year, and I'm just hoping that as we move into next year, we'll start to get the numbers of people on board that are going to make the difference. And also, I notice that there's one or two very smart people kind of filtering into this from the outside. We met a guy at court last Wednesday who was very erudite. He was interviewing the solicitor outside, and he asked a damn sight more intelligent questions than both the BBC and ITV. And I've kind of linked up with him, and we're hoping to have him on board and helping people out very soon.
Yeah, I'm optimistic about people waking up because, you know, for a long time it was like being in sort of French resistance. You go into pubs and some people would sort of wink at you and come over and ask you questions about stuff and that. But now it's full on pretty much now. Everywhere you go, everybody's asking the same questions. You know, we know, look, everything is corrupt from the banks down. So we've got the fractional reserve banking, then we've got mortgages, securitization of it. They're just tapping figures into a screen. You know, the whole lot is fraud. So when it comes down to what's happening to us on the street here, getting removed from our houses and having our property stolen, we expect them to have some sort of paperwork to support their actions, and of course they haven't. And we've been hitting them through their own indemnity and stuff, and causing them an awful lot of problems by telling them that there are going to be claims against them in the sums of whatever millions it is. And they've got an obligatory duty then to inform their insurers of that. So we've been hitting them in every direction we can, trying to get these characters, to wake up. But it's a problem them and us situation with all of this.
Yeah, do you want to speak, Nick?
Yes, I'll have a few words if that's okay.
Yes, of course it is. Yeah, welcome to Raconteurs News.
Pardon?
I said welcome to Raconteurs News.
Thank you very much. Just to say that Paula had written to Theresa May a letter.
Uh-huh.
And she said it was being passed on to the Justice Department, who we've not heard anything from. We keep banging out these letters to different people, asking for help, and obviously showing them the law, and they're choosing to ignore it.
Mm-hmm. And how long ago was that letter you sent to Theresa May?
Theresa May now is nearly 2 months.
I've got a reply on 24th of November.
Yeah, on the 24th of November she got a reply, but this was over 2 months ago, eventually saying that she couldn't do anything about it, and she'd pass it on to the Justice Department, that we haven't received any notification at all. We got in touch with the MP, Andrew, well, he was his agent. We've bombarded him with letters and phone calls saying, look, this is the law, they're breaking the law, arrest these people. And eventually got fed up and wrote and told me, look, I've sent emails to the court asking for information, and they've not replied to him either.
Mm-hmm.
And the last time I rang him, just the week before Christmas, he was very concerned that the courts hadn't replied to him.
Oh, right.
you know, and the Justice Department hadn't replied to him either. He wanted the mortgage people. He wanted to know where this indemnity is and this insurance against this endowment mortgage, and they haven't replied to him either. Now, you know, we're asking the police for help at each time. We've asked the crime commissioner for help. We've asked the Chief Constable Simon Cole, Leicestershire Police. He's not been in touch. You know, we're asking these people for help. We're pointing out the law to them, read the law, and they're choosing to ignore it. We've had help off Roger Hayes and Guy Taylor, who asked us to do, and without him, and Peter Turner Hicks, who originally came to us, we would have lost the house. But these people, we still might yet. But we know we're in the right, and they're in the wrong. And we asked the police for help. We asked all these people for help to investigate it, and nobody's coming back to us.
So, what I find is so bizarre is that purely because the bank has lost the insurance policy, they're coming after your house.
Originally, let me just explain from original. I think Paula neglected to say this. Originally, we had an endowment mortgage with Eagle Star.
Yeah.
Who promptly sold it on to West Brom.
Okay.
And they've lost the insurance. And Paula pointed out to them, look, you know, we've paid this mortgage for 25 years, you know, as normal, and where's the insurance to pay this off?
Yeah.
And they turned around and said, well, we don't keep records that far now. That far back. But to make things even worse, Paula pointed out the terms of the endowment mortgage. It was their responsibility to keep this insurance.
Now,
we are in
terms that you can't have the mortgage.
Yes, and in the terms, you can't have the mortgage without the insurance.
Yeah, so
it's their responsibility to make sure this is kept up to date. Now, we can prove it's 25 years and a bit. We've paid the mortgage.
Yeah.
We've got the evidence there. This is on a £35,000 mortgage. Now they're saying we're on nearly 60,000.
And I'd imagine you've probably given them thick end of 100,000 already.
Well, we've gave them on the mortgage, I think, probably, about 70 some odd £1,000 already.
So they've had back twice what they claim they lent to you.
Yes.
When in actual fact they didn't lend you any money because under their own regulations they're not allowed to, and they now not only do they're asking you to pay back twice what you didn't borrow, they want your house as well.
Yes.
That sounds like a good racket to be in if you're on the right side of it, doesn't it?
Paula neglected to say as well, on the day of the last December the 1st, it is on camera somewhere, we've got it on camera somewhere, that they offered my son £10,000 to negotiate with us to get out the house.
Really?
Wow.
You know, it's on. We've got reams of film, you know, that was taken. Some of it live stream, some of it what other members have taken. And they offered £10,000 for us to get out, negotiate. And I rang Paula because I'm a coach driver. I was in court, but I'm also I was doing coaching that morning, but I was in court. And when I come out of court, my wife said to me, "You'll never guess what they've done." I said, "No." "Well, they've offered us £10,000 to walk away from the house." And I said, "Paula, what do you think?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Paula, we're together. We've been together 33 years now. And it's our house. We're not going." I said, "Paula, I think Paula shouted to them, offer us 150,000 and we might consider it."
Too right.
I could swear and I shan't swear, but I feel like swearing.
No, you must do, absolutely.
We ask for help. The people that we ask for help, from the police and the judiciary, and certainly a so-called judge, who's a Judge Atkinson, I believe his name is. These are crooks. These are thieves, they bandits, and they pirates. They are thieves. If I went to court or went to the police station with let's say a fraudulent insurance document, which clearly these have got, purporting to be a warrant, I would be arrested, or any other man would have been arrested and bailed out and charged. These bailiffs are absolute bandits. It could happen to any listener that's listening to this. This could happen to anybody. And people don't realise that they're 3 payments away from losing the house, and it's going to get worse. It is a disgrace to the police and the courts and the solicitors that are all in it together. Terrible.
The lack of accountability is staggering.
This is absolutely disgusting. They've had a letter from the Prime Minister who sent it on. We sent a letter to the Prime Minister of England, the United Kingdom, who's passed it on to the Judiciary Justice Department, who's failed to ignore a concern that we have.
Mm-hmm. We have had a question in the chat room from Kev Mark, and I suppose it's a bit of an obvious one, but it says, have you got the original insurance document? Have you got the proof?
We've got the insurance. We've got all the documents that are required, and they have lost. They have lost it. We have tried to negotiate with them, and they has lost their copy as well. We have the deeds to the property, to the house.
Yeah.
We have everything that we require. We have tried to get it into court and produce it to the court with further evidence, and Judge Atkinson has refused us permission or set aside to go into court and produce new evidence. Yes, Peter Turner Hicks, my wife and my other son, went to the Royal Courts of Justice with the evidence, who refused it and said it should be heard back into Leicester. And they wouldn't even they tried to put an injunction on the courts and the bailiffs, and they refused it. It is theft. They are pirates.
Yeah.
Thieves, liars, and they're all in it together.
Yeah. As Gobsmack says in the chat room, 250,000 homeless. Way to go, Britain.
They are not bothered, this government or any other government.
I don't advise anybody to stay in their house.
Anybody that has a problem with a mortgage or the bank, stay in their house. Fight for it, tooth and nail. The only way they're going to get me and Paula out this house is in a box. This is our house. We've paid for this house. These endowment mortgages was found to be corrupt. They are thieves.
Liberated ones.
This was a liberate endowment. They're thieves. Do not, anybody that's listening to this conversation who is in the same similar problem, fight for their house. Do not let the swines beat you, because they are wrong. Can I just make a special a special request?
Yes, please do.
Peter Turner Hicks, if it wasn't for him, we would not be fighting for this house. If it wasn't for Guy Taylor and Roger Hayes and Peter Cruff, I think his name is, Kroll, you know, if it wasn't for these men that's standing up to this, standing up for the right to be right, to help us, people like us, that's in this mess. They are saints. They ought to be stood up and be counted. These people are helping. You know, these people are helping like us in this situation, and they should be put on a plinth. They should be knighted in the New Year's honours because they are standing up for a right.
Yeah,
I'm sorry about that, but that's how I feel about them.
I absolutely agree with. There's an awful lot of people in this a similar mess to yourselves, and if it weren't for people like Guy and Roger and the others that you mentioned, there would be an awful lot more people out on the streets. And I think not only should we be applauding them and giving them all the help we can, I think we should be getting behind them, encouraging them and helping out where we can, and trying to learn this stuff ourselves so that when it comes to our door, because it certainly will, nobody's exempt from this, they're coming after everybody's stuff, then we can look after ourselves, or perhaps won't need quite so much help from someone like Guy or Roger.
Yeah, Roger's been quite good, as in, he's never told me what to put. He's put me in the right direction, and then said, right, come back to me and see what you found and what you think. So it's been like a learning curve. He says, I don't want to do it for you, I want you to understand it.
That is, I've actually had a conversation with someone today about helping people and how they're helping people, but they don't want to do it for themselves. They want him to stand in and do it for them. And he's saying, you know, I wish people would just learn the stuff for themselves. It's not rocket science. Just learn it yourself, and then you'll be in a better position to help yourself when
it comes knocking on your door, which it inevitably will do at some point, unless of course you're a multi-millionaire, or even then that's. Can
I say something?
Yeah, please.
Can I say something? Guy Taylor has been persecuted, and he is fighting for a right. They know he's right, and they're doing everything they can. Anybody that knows Guy, and I've only known him for a short while, but I know him to be a true friend. Me to be a true friend to him, because he has been persecuted, and anybody that knows him, the police, the bailiffs, the courts have been against him.
Yeah,
they are thieves, mate. They are bandits. He has done his job. He is doing his job, and he is standing there, and he needs more and more support. We need people to get out there and demonstrate. Keep banging into the MPs, to the police, to the bailiffs, to the courts.
Yeah,
that's what we need to do. We need all the support we can get.
Absolutely. And what has it been like for? I mean, you mentioned Guy and a few other individuals that have been a big help to you. What's it been like for public support? Have you received anything like the support that Tom had, or has it been very thin on the ground?
No, but we have got people awakening.
I think it's because we've had unannounced visits. We've not had a chance to test that out.
Yeah, we've never had that chance, but we've had lots of support from different people. Certainly around where we live, that, you know, give us a ring, let us know, you know, we're there. You know, we're there if you need us, but they've been turning up unannounced. I have to go to work. We run a coach company and lorry company, and we have to you know, we have to go to work. So the blunt of it has been taken up by my wife and my sister. You know, and when you've been verbally abused and assaulted, you know, and not broken the law is there, you know, and the police choose to ignore that this is being trespassing and assaulting your wife and verbally abusing, and then how would you feel? You know, I feel very frustrated.
Yeah, frustrated, angry, disappointed,
very angry.
let down.
The police are choosing to ignore the law. You know, if I went down to Whittick, I live in Whittick, a little village outside Colville. If I went down the town and started shouting, and you know, would they ignore me? Certainly not. But they coming in here and abusing us. We've had stuff stolen from the property. You know, we've had the damage. We've had a number of things that's happened here. You know, and the police. I've rang the police 4 or 5 times for help. Help. That's the first person. That's the first people you go to. You would think if you've been assaulted and robbed, you know, and they won't do anything about it. My mother came from Germany, Eastern Germany, that lived under a Nazi regime and part of a Russian regime. And I have family in Germany that still resonate today, older folks, and the Stasi, that what they did to these people.
That's how our police are getting.
And this is how our police are getting. And they are, you know, it is disgusting. What they've done to Tom Crawford is absolutely disgusting. You can feel the frustration in my voice.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
this guy Taylor and Roger and Peter Crawford and all these people and Peter Turner Hicks are standing up to.
Yeah. Well, we had a guest on the other week. I believe it was Francis Richard Conley who made the film JFK to 9/11. Everything's a rich man's trick. And I've completely lost my thread there. I apologise.
I'm sorry to be a pain.
No, I was just going to say something there, but it's completely gone.
Completely gone, has it, Andy?
Yep.
Oh dear, I thought it was just me.
Yeah, no, complete brain fart here. Sorry about that, folks.
So it's got to be taking quite a toll on your personal life. How's that? How are you getting on with that?
Yes, it's took a toll on my. But you know, we have problems. You know, we have, me and my wife. Like I say, we're like one. You know, we've been together many years. And, you know, she's the...
On the happy side, he's the grumpy side.
Yes, Paula's the happy side, I'm the grumpy side. But she means everything to me. And when you get police and bailiffs assault and break into your house verbally and steal things, how would you feel? How do you feel? How do you think I feel? And you ask the police for help.
There's no accountability whatsoever, is there? Nobody wants to enforce the law. They want to just enforce whatever nonsense they've got on a piece of paper.
Yes, he's come back to me now. What Francis actually said was that all that is required for evil to triumph is that good men stand by and do nothing. Sorry, I knew it'd come back to me in the end. But that's simply what we're getting now. You know, this evil is being perpetrated. I mean, it's genocide. Let's call it what it is. It is genocide on the people of this nation, this country, this island, whatever you want to call it.
Do you know what, Andy, right? Do you know what? When the thing went on in Birkenhead years ago, and like 600 people turned up for it,
yeah,
and with Tom Crawford's gigs, where, you know, hundreds of people turned up, yeah, it was big hope, because, you know, you knew people were waking up and kept turning up in numbers, and they didn't know how to deal with it, because, again, what we're saying, we're not dealing with the law anymore. They're not bothering with the law. you can put the law under their nose and they don't deal with it, right? They only deal with enforcement now. That's all they're dealing with, yeah? And of course, we've got the option to enforce against them, you know, with liens and things, yeah, which is another subject. But they're not operating under law. They're only operating under enforcement. And of course, when there's 600 or 700 people protecting property, all just stood there, and all they want of the bailiffs and the police is the court order. And of course, if they don't give you an order, no order equals a tall order. Well, we're not going to swallow that, are we? And so they go away, but they come back, and they come back in the dead of night, or come back sneakily like they have with, Tom and Nick and Paula. And so, you know, this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with criminality, and we're dealing with criminality on a very high level. You know, I mean, you take these trusts and these strategic partnerships that are operating throughout the whole of our society, where the police are in strategic partnership with the courts are in strategic partnership with child services, and all of this has been held together by the lawyers. And of course, the lawyers are holding the framework of all this together. You know, and they're all guilty of professional negligence when it comes to property, which we're talking about, because they know they're standing up in court and supporting people that haven't got the documents to support their actions. And that's why I say, you know, that the worrying issue is that there's going to be something very, very serious happen, and if that person's got any sense, they'll represent themselves and say there's lawful excuse and they want a perverse verdict, and explain what jury nullification is all about and how the jury is the law, and they'll get acquitted for some heinous crime, and then maybe people will start waking up to what's going on.
Yeah, we've got a comment in the chat room from Deja Vu, who I know does quite a lot in the courts, and he said he asked a judge about these no-knock warrants, and he asked, can they do that, just turn up and break in without knocking? He said no, which means we have to prosecute the effers to do it.
Yeah,
I agree, and I mean, and that's why, you know, we've gone down the private prosecution routes. You know, I've got summonses issued against 3 bailiffs, 2 for burglary from British Gas, and 1 from UK Evict for assault when they carried me off the manor. And I went to the judge and I put the evidence in front of him, and he was a good judge. But I mean, a good judge, when I say a good judge, they're all cowards because they know this stuff's going on and they're not doing nothing about it. But he did, that day, he decided that he'd have to issue a summons against these bailiffs. And I had the summonses issued. But of course, what happens then is the Crown Prosecution Service wrote to me saying they'd like to look at the file, but I'm not obligated to give them the file. So I said, well, I'm not going to give it you then because it's my prosecution. I don't need you people. Yeah. And the next thing is they had a secret hearing. When I went to court on the, we went to court the one time. I mean, I just wanted to see these bailiffs in the box.
Yeah.
You know, so that was where I got my sort of remedy in some ways. But by the next hearing, they'd had a hearing the day before, and the CPS said they'd read the file and decided not to pursue the prosecution. And of course, they hadn't read the file because I hadn't given it them. So I mean, that's the level of gatekeeping and corruption that we're dealing with. And like I say about Mick and Paula, that, you know, they are. You know, let's make them the fighting spirit of 2017. You know, they didn't go out looking for a fight. They're business people. You know, and they worked all their lives and done their thing. You know, they didn't go out looking for this fight. The fight was brought to them, but they're standing their ground. And you know, let's give it to them this year coming up.
Absolutely, and much respect to you, Paula, and family for what you're doing. We've heard so much about this over the years, and originally we'd planned tonight. We were just going to do a review of the year and have a bit of a laugh, but I thought really this story, when Guy mentioned it, it's too topical not to cover it, and I thought perhaps if people are sat at home and they're, you know, kind of just still digesting their Christmas dinner, or if they digested that and they're sat at home all cosy and warm, it just might make them think this could be you next year, because if we don't all stand up and bloody well fight, it is going to be you and your family and your immediate friends and family who are facing this problem.
Yeah, it can happen to absolutely anybody. I mean, I know one of the bailiffs before they went, he said, do you know what one of these warrants looks like? I said, well, not that particular one, but I know what a warrant should look like. And he said, well, I'm pleased about that because I don't know. I don't know what it's supposed to look like. And he's a bailiff who's purporting to have a warrant.
That says an awful lot about what they are and who they are, doesn't it, Paula? But you've been brilliant for the first hour, but normally at this time we play a little...
Hi, I'm Andrew K. Fletcher, originator of incline bed therapy, talking to you on Raconteur News.
And welcome back to Raconteurs News. I'm not sure if we're back online yet because Tony's rebooted the server because apparently we were having trouble because we were dropping out occasionally and we're getting blasting reggae music coming through. So hopefully that'll cure it. I don't know if you heard that voice ident there, Paula, but I did notice at the beginning you mentioned you had trouble with migraines. Now, we can probably help you with that. We tried something when we met Andrew about 18 months ago, and it's called incline bed therapy, and all you do is you simply prop the head of your bed up by 6 inches so that your bed is at a constant angle of 5 degrees, and it pretty much sorted my sciatica out in 1 or 2 nights, but I know Jason's other half, she suffered with migraines, and since they raised their bed, I believe it's sorted that out. Isn't that right, Jason?
Yeah, greatly reduced. Greatly reduced. She's had one since, so can't be helped, I suppose. But no, it definitely helps.
Yeah, I've tried that and it didn't work.
It didn't work. Oh dear. Well, I know it takes a while to kick in for some people. Some people have to try it for a month or two, but it's unfortunate if it doesn't work for you. I suppose not everything works for everybody. We're all different, aren't we? But
that's true. I had my ear pierced, on the inside, because they said that works. It's a acupuncture point.
Oh yeah.
But that didn't work. I still get them sometimes, but I've had different tests and that, and apparently it's a nerve in my brain that sometimes don't get the blood supply to it.
Ah, right. Okay.
It's that causes it. It's horrendous if it's full blown. I end up, at the hospital and everything. It gives me fits and everything.
Oh crikey! I mean, I don't get the classic migraines, but I get something called cluster headaches, which is similar, but it can last anywhere from a couple of days to a fortnight if I don't catch it in time. But touch wood, since I did it, I've not had one, so I'm very grateful to Andrew for all the work he's done on that. But
yeah, well, I had a permanent bladder for about 3 years, and they put me on not full blown, but it was there all the time for about 3 years, and they did put me on a low dose of beta blockers.
Oh yeah. And
that after a couple of weeks, that sort of cured that part of it. I don't take them now.
Yeah.
But it did cure that part of it. I took them for a couple of years, and it sorted that out.
Oh, well done.
But I do get them on again. I've tried all the food and everything else, and it don't do anything. I was thinking about the oil that everybody keeps talking about. So if that helps.
Well, I think we'd certainly recommend the oil. If it's the oil that you're talking about, CBD. Me and myself and Andy both take it regularly, don't we, Andy?
Oh yeah. I've been taking it now for a good 6 months, and it's certainly helped me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought about that. So I think that might be my next step, to be honest.
Yeah, I can recommend that. I think it does help with blood flow. It'd be worth trying it anyway. It's very inexpensive to try if it's going to get rid of something that's causing you that terrible pain.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're talking about your house tonight and the fight you've got. Back to that. I mean, do you know what you're expecting next, or are you really in the dark now and you're just waiting to see what the hell happens?
Yeah, we're thinking. Me and Monica. Unfortunately, Monica's not here tonight, but I'm sure she'll give you a few ideas. But we're expecting them coming back, but I think we might have the SAS next time.
Yes. Yeah, and the helicopters and the stormtroopers like they did for Tom, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think the stormtroopers were around the corner, but they didn't actually make it here. We threw a few things out. I mean, we had at least 3 sergeants here, so by the time I threw a few things out the window to them, as in do your job. It's in fact, Monica was extremely vocal because she's very loud. She's very vocal, and I think this. Thought, hold on a minute, this is somebody who seems to know what they're talking about, and I think that's what held them off.
Yeah.
There were some fun parts to it, to be quite honest with you. It weren't just, we probably shouldn't have found it funny, but we did.
Well, I suppose that's what they call the British gallows humour, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I used to work in motorbike racing as a mechanic.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the era that I worked in the late 70s and early 80s, there was a lot of deaths. But the only way we could cope with that was by just making a joke out of it and getting on with it. We all knew what that risk was there, but it was something we very rarely talked about. A lot of people didn't even go to their friends' funerals because they just couldn't face them. But the dark humour was what kept us going. And a lot of people say, "Well, that's sick humour," but if it gets through the tough times, what's better, laughing or crying?
Well, I think that's part of the reason they didn't quite know how to handle us, because I don't think we reacted in the way that they thought. I think they thought 2 women there and they'll be in tears and breakdown and everything else. But to be quite honest, I mean, we pretty much bounce off each other anyway.
Oh, good for you, Paula.
So, and I don't think they quite knew how to take us.
No, that's it. Well, it's always good if you can present something a little bit different as a reaction to what they're expecting, because, like you say, they don't know how to deal with it if you don't react in the fearful way which you're expected to act. Yeah.
I think they were just expecting us to be a screaming, crying mess, you know what I mean? But it didn't work that way. But I think part of it as well is, I mean, before all this kicked off, just talking as somebody who, because I really didn't know that all this movement was about, and I thought that Peter was well, I won't tell you what I really said, but it was something like, he's an idiot, what you're listening to him for.
Yeah.
Until I looked into it properly. And then I realised, oh my God, there's all these people out here that are already doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't realise. Well, like I say, I went over to Mark's salon, because there's nowhere in Leicestershire there's no groups that I can find that are doing this type of thing.
We're the first.
Because I would, once I get a bit of freedom, I'd love to set up a group. And Mark's salon was the nearest one.
Mm-hmm.
And Peter took me over, and it was great. The pegs started dropping then. Once one peg drops, everything else sort of slotted into place. You realise. And I think that's what a lot of people are lacking in, normal everyday life. People are going about doing the thing, and you think that the police are the law. The courts are the law, and whatever they say must be right and must be done.
Yeah.
And then when you suddenly realise, hold on a minute, they're not. That's why some things seem so unfair, because they are unfair. They're not doing it properly. Well, I'm not. I wouldn't go out my way to cause trouble with the police unnecessarily.
No.
If they're doing the normal everyday job, but I've got no fear of them anymore. I've got no fear of courts or the police or anything anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where they're thinking, hold on a minute, they're not reacting the way they're supposed to be reacting. I think that's what's surprising some of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
I think it takes a lot more people to do that. I'm not saying go out and break the law, but people need to think what is the law and what isn't. And if it's not, don't do it. Sod 'em.
Yeah.
If it's not law, sod 'em.
Mm-hmm. The problem is that people don't get into this sort of field until it smacks them in the face.
Yeah, I mean, there is a few people sort of locally that they are asking the questions now. They're not in the mess, if you know what I mean, but they are beginning to ask questions, and it's like, oh, actually, I looked up such and such, you know, and you're right. So it is slowly getting out there, but it's not near enough, fast enough.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing. I mean, there will be a tipping point at some point where somebody's just... Because it does seem like you're banging your head against a brick wall.
Yeah.
And you're not being heard. That's, nobody's being heard. That's the frustrating thing.
Yeah. I mean, we've had a couple of comments like, well, you should have paid your mortgage. Well, we did. That's the point. We did.
Mm.
You know, it can happen to you. No, it won't happen to us. Well, we'll just sit back and wait then, shall we, and see whether it does or not. Or your family. Somebody in your family.
Mm. Yeah.
Because odds are it's going to happen to somebody else. I mean, there was eviction a couple of months ago, just down the road from us. A lady was evicted.
And try to help them.
But I mean, if they don't want help, I mean, the help was there, we offered, but they just think it's whatever the courts or whatever anybody says, that's how it goes. That's what you've got to do.
Yeah. Well, I remember from when we met Roger in February, I think it was. Yeah, I think it was February the 13th. We went up and met Roger. He did a talk in Liverpool. He was saying the banks are actually using legislation that doesn't apply. As far as repossession goes, you can't repossess something unless you've had it in the first place, and the banks have never had ownership of that property. So how the hell can they repossess it?
Which is what I tried to point out to the policewoman that come. We only had one policewoman, but that come. That's what I said to her, because she says, well, it's been repossessed. I said, how can they repossess it when they didn't possess it in the first place?
Exactly. And that...
they're after possession. I says, no, I fancy the house across the road. If I go and knock on his door, throw him out because I fancy his house, can I do that? Well, no. I says, well, that's what you're doing.
Of course it is.
But, I mean, if they don't want to listen, they don't want to listen, do they? That's the thing. They just close their ears.
Uh-huh.
And if I could just say, right, when we ask these questions, where's the warrant? They don't show it us, right? Well, why not? The one person that should be shown the warrant is the person who's been evicted. Yeah, that's it's been executed against. But you don't get to see it, And like I said before, the next thing they'll be coming around with death warrants and saying, right, we've got a death warrant here for you, and you say, well, can I see it? Oh no, it's too important for you to see, mate.
Mm.
And this is where we're going. I mean. Look, when we ask questions, where's the warrant? They can't answer, right? When we ask questions, has a fee been paid? Because if it's a bank involved, they ain't paying the fees, right?
Yeah.
And when we say, can you show us, right? Because we believe there's no legislation to support the forceful eviction of a lawful occupier. In fact, all legislation. In fact, the opposite applies under the Criminal Law Act 1977.
Yeah.
They can't answer that. They can't answer. So the lawyers that are working for these people are being professionally negligent if they're not checking the documents and checking the affidavits or the statements of truth or whatever that are being put in front of them. So we know all these conveyancing lawyers are operating completely unlawfully. They're trading properties over the phone without signatures. And if anyone buys properties at fire sales, they should check if the AP and the TR forms have been signed. because they won't have been, even though you've paid for it. And so, on every single level, we've got this corruption and this nonsense going on, and people are trying to ask silly peripheral questions about issues. Look, everything's corrupt from the top to the bottom, and it's running through society like a cancer, like a disease. And it's time we stood up, man, and let's make this year, 2017, the one coming up, a big year. It's got to be a big year this year. I mean, this year's been a big year for exposing stuff. Exposing stuff's been brilliant this year.
Yeah.
Well, let's next year, let's, as I said, right, it's all about enforcement, yeah?
Yeah.
There's no law anymore, there's only enforcement. Well, let's start enforcing on them, let's start enforcing on them. Let's start, issuing these people with liens and turning up at the Chief Constable's house en masse and start seizing his assets as we've the right to, as a lien, as the right to retain possession of his property pending discharge of a debt. Let's start giving these people some grief, man. Mm-hmm. It's the only way. It's the only way forward. It is the only way forward, because when they're operating in this machine, they've got to realise that they're operating outside the law and outside the boundaries afforded them by any legislation. So, we're able to put the law under their nose. And all these lawyers, listen, they're either involved in it or they're cowards and won't stand up to it. That's the bottom line of it.
Mm.
We've had a couple of solicitors that have shown interest. And then they'll say, and come back to us and that. But when you do, they'd suddenly change the tune. And I think they're scared. They've been warned off, basically.
Yeah.
When they've made inquiries, and it's like, you see, we can't really pursue this route.
Yeah.
No, and he's you've changed your tune a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I had a similar thing. I fell off a house and broke my back when I was 19, and I was misdiagnosed for 28 and a half years. And I was treated in the Isle of Man. We've got some of the best orthopaedic surgeons in the world for putting the races back together. When I got back to the UK, they said, "Oh no, you just bruised it. It's malingering." And I was up against that for 28 and a half years, until I had an MRI scan. And the first specialist I went to see went, "Oh my God, I've never seen spasm like that in somebody's back. How on earth do you cope?" I said, "Well, I haven't really got much choice." I went to consulted a solicitor, well, several different ones, and not one of them would touch it.
Can I just say this, right?
Yep.
Right, about this is where it goes. If you've got a problem in this country on the canals, this is about the river, the boats getting stolen, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
If you've got a problem at the canals, right, they'll use a solicitors called Shoesmiths, the Canal and Riverboat Trust, which is a charity. They go around with buckets getting money off the public and then stealing people's boats, right? This is what's going on. But they'll use Shoesmith solicitors against you. They'll steal your boat like they did with Lee Ravenscroft, and they'll try every trick in the book to try and get out of it. Now, they use the same solicitors, and they use exactly the same scam. They use virtually the same paperwork for all these cases, and then they try to bail themselves out by putting gagging orders on the people that they bail out. Now, if you go for a solicitor, so if you've got a problem with these characters, this Canal and Riverboat Trust, what you do is you go to any solicitor, they'll say, "Oh, it's specialist, we don't deal with it, and you'll end up not getting a tidy solicitor for the job, and you're against the same crew that are doing this day in, day out. There might be one person who actually takes them to court because of the paperwork, etc., usually self-litigants, and they have to bail themselves out. But up to that point, if you get a normal lot of solicitors, you'll have a big court case and you'll end up losing. And this is exactly what's going on with all aspects of society. We've been infiltrated by, masonry and common purpose, the two threads of this, and they're running the system. And people whose heads are popping up, who are starting to ask questions, like Mick and Paula, all of a sudden they're slamming down on them in every way they possibly can. And to people outside of what's going on, it wouldn't seem possible. It really wouldn't.
No. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, we've asked questions. It's like, well, show us the law. You show us the law, show us a proper warrant, show us a proper court case, we'll give you the keys if you're correct.
Yeah.
We'll give you the keys. And they can't do it. They can't do it. The last warrant, so-called warrant, like I say, well, it wasn't a proper warrant, not for us anyway. There isn't one in existence. There isn't one for them to issue. Mm-hmm. So we knew it were false anyway. I mean, I sent a picture to Roger, and Roger says that's about as useful as the Daily Mail that I bought this morning. Not fit for purpose. And that's what you're up against all the time. But the police won't listen to that. They do act like the Stasi. I mean, they go around your neighbours asking questions. You know, you get all that because they've been round some of our neighbours and asked some questions. You know, well, the neighbours don't really know anything, to be honest with you, so you can't give them much.
Yeah. I mean, that's...
we were told we had a slight informant, funny enough, that, you know, spoke to my son a few times, and before they went, he said, you've got 4 cameras trained onto your house. 2 on the back, 2 on the front. Mm-hmm. All right, fair enough. Well, I don't know what they're going to gain from that, because... Well, I don't know what... They can't see what's going off inside the house. But I know one of them was on a neighbour's, because we saw it in the window. Mm-hmm. We waved to them and blew them a few kisses, you know, and... but that's disappeared. Where the other ones are, I don't know. But that's the sort of tricks that they play, you know. But I did ring the police up, you see, and I said to them, you know, you've got covert cameras on us. And who's told you that? I said, well, I can't tell you who's told me. But I want them moving. That's against my human rights. I want them moving. But who's told you? I said, I can't tell. Oh, unless you give us a name, we can't do anything about it. I said, well, I'm not going to give you a name, am I? I said, but I do want them moving. But like I say, it was about 2 days after this camera disappeared.
But I mean, it's typical gang, what they call gang stalking, yeah? And the police don't even know they're doing it half the time. And I mean, I've had it with me, you know, I live across the road from a really good country pub, which gets, you know, a lot of people, it's a proper good eatery. And summer before last, we had 2 or 3 police vans pull up with coppers getting out and starting going into the garden, asking people to eat in meals, asking them if they've seen me or seen me going in and out of the property. And I'm over here watching the coppers do it. You know, my son had told me about it. And you think to yourself, well, all they're doing is setting little fires. They're gang stalking you, getting you know. So the people in the pub start thinking, God, the customer's getting questioned about the guy who lives across the road. Yeah. Yeah. And this is what they do. You know, this is proper. And if you check out gang stalking, you'll find it goes on. You know, and this is where these partnerships operate. This is where the council operate with the police, who will be operating with the social services, and people might start getting bombarded by letters from these departments because they're operating in this partnership, the strategic partnership, and we know what the strategy is. And they're gang stalking you and they're pressurising you in these ways, and it sounds ridiculous until it starts happening to you, but it's going on full bore.
Interesting comment come up in the chat room there about the boat issues, and there's someone in the chat room called Alec, and he said, if there are any boat issues, I know a piece of common land where they can go, if that's any help to anyone.
Brilliant, yeah.
But we've also got a question that was from way back in the chat room when you mentioned the private prosecutions guy. And the question is quite simply, is anyone mounting successful private prosecutions?
Well, I mean, we're dealing with the law, so success it means different things in the law, because, as I've said, to get your name into case history, you have to lose a case and then win an appeal, really. Yeah?
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying to you is this. We can fill these courts with private criminal prosecutions. I know for myself, I've taken up a day of the court's time, put in private criminal prosecutions before them, unsuccessful in like 90% of them, but successful on the odd one, yeah? Like I said before. and I've taken up a day of Hereford Magistrates Court's time. Well, of course, we're all entitled to do that. But we employ the Crown Prosecution Service to do that job for us. But if they're incompetent and not fit for purpose, then unfortunately we have to do it ourselves, and that's the way forward. So whether you're successful in those prosecutions, because as I've said, the CPS may steal it or whatever, it depends what your success level is. If your success is to make sure these people know that you're taking it to them and you're blocking these courts up and with genuine issues, then that's a success in itself. If you think you're going to successfully get through the whole system and get in front of a jury, I mean, brilliant if you do. But that's another issue again, yeah? And I mean, that's why I think people have been, ultimately we just got to get in front of a jury on any issue. That's the bottom line, because, there's a conflict of interest. When there's lawful excuse, the judiciary have a conflict of interest. And so we've got to get before juries. We've got, and so unfortunately, when, like say, Tom's trying to get in front of a jury, just so he can get these evidence out in front of a jury and get it on the public records. And they held him in the summary courts with under £5,000 criminal damage. If he'd done £10,000 worth of criminal damage, then he would have got there. Or if indeed they charged him with a burglary, which is what he'd confessed to them to get there. But it's because they're frightened stiff of juries. The judiciary are scared stiff of juries because they know really they're the ones who hold the keys, not them.
Yes, I mean, I suppose that it's like Paul Webster's said quite often when he's been on with us. People say, well, you've had no success, and that purely depends on how you define success. Paul's had a period of several years now where British Gas don't bother him anymore. He's not paying for his gas, so I suppose if you're trying to avoid paying for your gas again, then that's a result, isn't it?
Well, no, exactly right. And so let's look at that. I mean, what's not success? I'll tell you, exactly the same as Paul there. I had 16 court cases with N-Power, and I won every one of them. Because I'd locked them into a state where they couldn't get out of. Yeah. And so I found it amusing when they were sending me more summonses to appear, because that's when we went there and we threatened to arrest the judge and stuff on that, because it became ridiculous, and we were laughing at them. It was almost like what they call the child rescue moment, isn't it? And so that was success. And I mean, whenever you get in front of a jury, if you're an honest person, you look the jury in the eyes, you expect to get success, because you've got to trust 12 good people and true around you. Yeah, if you don't, then you don't. What sort of world are we living in? And I think we're in a world now where we can trust juries. They're scared of juries, and so that's why success comes in lots of ways. You may not win success in the county or civil courts, but you might win success with the public who, upon hearing what's happened to you, believe that you had lawful excuse because the court documents didn't stand up to scrutiny, the land registry documents didn't stand up to scrutiny, and there wasn't a warrant. So, if you're in front of a jury and the jury decide that's correct, then they've got problems.
Can I ask you a question, guys?
Yeah.
Hey, you're all right, guys. It's Pete here.
Oh, hi, Peter. How are you doing? All right.
Yeah. Just a quickie. I'd just like your take on this. I'd be looking into different things, the association between police and courts and so forth. And I found something which says that the police and courts have something called a strategic agreement. Did you know anything about that, Guy?
Right, well, that term I don't, Peter, strategic agreement, that's a very good term, we can look into that, but they're called, normally what they do is all these parties that are in a strategic partnership, they have a thing called a memorandum of understanding between each other, and they're called MOUs, and MOUs, they're not legally binding, but they're just gentlemen's agreements.
How I understand it is you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. And
Big
Am
time.
I on the right track there, guys?
No, it's big time. That's it. That's it in a nutshell, Peter.
Ah, right. Yeah. And I'm trying to delve into this at the moment, and
Yeah, check out. I mean, check out memorandums of understanding. I know a bloke who's got memorandums of understanding between all these parties, between the CPS and the council and all sorts. He's got all the memorandums of understanding. And what was it you called it? You called it strategic.
a strategic agreement.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe that's a new name on it. So yeah, that's good. Nice one, Peter. Well done.
Oh, right. I've heard them called strategic partnerships. It isn't that one in Nottingham. I don't know if it's countrywide called MAPA.
MAPA's countrywide.
Right. That's
multi-agency. Yeah. I mean, but what we talk about strategic partnerships is because if you get any documents off the court or off the council, very often, not always, but very often at the bottom, if you check around the imprint of the document, you'll see that they're in strategic partnership. The council are in strategic partnership with the courts, or with the police. Well, if they're in strategic partnerships with these entities, then we can't get a fair hearing if they're charging us and putting us in front of the court, can we?
No.
But because there's conflict of interest.
If they put that in front of a court and they've got a strategic agreement, that means there's a conflict of interest.
Yeah, straight away.
So therefore, if there's a conflict of interest, there is no way, shape or form you're going to get a fair hearing.
That's right. But if they've notified you of that, it's interesting, isn't it? That they've notified you that they're in these. But of course, it's not a court, and this is the problem. You know, in most of these cases, I mean, this is the amazing thing. You know, I haven't paid council tax for years, but I mean, about 2 years ago, they mistakenly I got a council tax bill, as it were. The machine had sent it me, so we went to the court, and because ultimately, they're not operating under the criminal procedure rules, they're not operating under the civil procedure rules. So they're operating under what rules? Because if you're not under either of those two jurisdictions, then why am I here, right? And of course, they've known this for years that we've been doing. But when we went there, they quickly told us no need to come. No, sorry, it was a mistake, But I mean, people have got to realise that they're not in front of courts. They're not in front of courts, and this is all, it's very, very, and it's very powerful when people understand that when they realise they're not in front of a court, and that's why they call them tribunals now.
Well, basically, it's an administrative hearing.
Unlawful without your consent. Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to ask, get your take on that.
Yeah, nice one. Yeah, nice one, Peter. Yeah.
And I'd just like everybody to know that's listening that I was only able to do what I did for Paula and Mick. Basically, I've just pointed them in the right direction. And the only person I can give credit to that is to you, Guy, because as I've told you before, and Guy Taylor has been my mentor. I've followed Guy for quite a few years now, and I wouldn't be in possession of the knowledge I know now without Guy. So I would just like to thank you for that, Guy.
Thanks, Peter.
Okay, I'll pass you back to Paula. I just wanted to get that cleared up about that strategic agreement.
Cheers, Peter.
Right, well, we're back, aren't we? Oh, sorry, I nearly fell asleep. I'm not feeling very well, so please forgive me.
Seasonal flu, is it, Jason?
Yes, it's seasonal flu, yes. I require hair of the dog.
I'm sure you'll be right soon, mate.
I'm sure I will.
You're always poorly, Jason. Whenever we're on air, man, you always seem to have something going on.
Well, this one's self-inflicted, though. I've just had a bit of a binge, alcohol-wise. And,
At least it's better than last year. I mean, Christ, this time last year you were in hospital with a heart attack, weren't you?
Yeah.
So we'll take hangover as being an improvement. Maybe next year you'll be fit as a butcher's dog.
Maybe. Let's take one day at a time, shall we?
So,
Can I just say something, guys?
yeah, please do.
Can we think of Mickey Summers in Nottingham?
I was about to raise that at the end of the show because Mickey's a good friend of both of ours, and it was very sad to see on Christmas Day that Mickey was admitted to the coronary care unit at Nottingham. Let's all spare a thought for Mickey Summers. He's not in a very good way, but he's still posting on Facebook. So, Mickey...
Can I just say...
Yep.
Sorry. Can I just say something else?
Mm-hmm.
That this guy is doing a noble cause and he needs a medal.
Mickey?
Yeah.
Yes, Mickey Summers. He's doing a very, very, very noble cause.
He is,
and he needs all the help he can get.
Yeah.
What a guy.
Yeah, we've had Mickey on the show, I don't know how many times. He's a great guy. He's certainly got the fighting spirit that we all need, because we're going to need it this year, aren't we?
Yes.
And I mean, Mickey's been pushed from pillar to post for I don't know how long, and they're losing his documents. Nobody's got, no record of this, no record of that. Yet, strangely enough, when Mickey gets people on the inside who've got a bit of knowledge, they manage to get the documents that have gone missing.
It's amazing.
Can I just raise a point, please?
Yeah, sure.
Against with all the listeners,
Mm-hmm.
and we, all these groups are fighting their own causes, and we need which is good and it's noble, and I have no argument to that. But we need some sort of getting together and fighting the cause together. I know we've all got different causes, I accept that, and we've all got this, but there's all these little groups around of trying to get the point across, and I think en masse, all the people, all the groups, let's get together. I know there's been infighting, there's been falling out. I'm a new member to this game,
Mm-hmm.
but I think we'd be better if we all fought together and we all went in one way.
I couldn't agree more. We've been banging on about that as long as we've been on air. Someone disagrees with you on Facebook, so what's best? Do you A, decide to agree to disagree, or B, set out to ruin the other person's life? And it's not really a big choice in my book. Because, there's so many people wasting so much energy attacking people who they should actually be stood shoulder to shoulder with, because we're all in this shit together.
Yeah, we're not going to agree on everything. Nobody agrees on everything. But yeah, everybody needs to just march together.
Put things aside. Let's arrange a meeting. I know it could be difficult, I accept that, but we ought to raise
For me, I can't get out of the house.
Well, we ought to arrange a meeting somewhere where we can all agree to disagree, and let's fight. Let's get there's so much knowledge out there, so much experience, and it's being wasted by attacking each other, not going in the right direction. We need the people to fight. We need them. We need them to be a nuisance to these people. We don't want any violence, but we need people put pen to paper, get on the internet. Let's go forward and let's attack them. Let's go at them.
Yeah, absolutely.
If there's any response out there, people out there probably feeling a bit, saying, it's all right for you and it's all right. No, it's not all right for me. I understand. I come from a big family, so I understand. But we ought to get back, just focus, get together, and let's get at them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's absolutely what we need. It's way overdue. While we're fighting amongst ourselves, we're doing their job for them, aren't we?
We are.
Yeah.
And you are a mouthpiece. You are there, and you are doing the greatest thing is by getting on the news, getting out there, getting on the air, and let's get at these MPs, let's get at the courts, let's get at all these people. Just focus.
Bombard them.
Get onto it. Let's get gone. Let's just get a movement going. Let's get the ball rolling. Because we're not going anywhere. By argument, we're all in different directions. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
We're all together, and we've got a common cause. When it all boils down, when you speak to these people, and I speak to a lot of these people now, and we've all got a common cause, but we all seem to be fighting each other, or all these groupers.
The corruption is in the courts.
Yes,
is in the judicial.
Yes, and we ought to be fighting these people. We ought to be going at them, and they can't ignore us. If there's a lot of us doing it, all different people, they can't ignore us. And you, as Raconteur News, you are a mouthpiece for these people. I'm only a newcomer. You're doing a sterling job. I'm only a newcomer for this, and no doubt people on this news will be saying, "Oh, well, it's all right for him." No, it's not all right for me. I know what's right. Get going. Let's get the ball rolling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and on that, I'd just like to reiterate a message that Tony Hurst has posted in the chat room. Tony's our webmaster, does fantastic work behind the scenes. While we've all been stuffing ourselves with turkey, Tony's been beavering away. He's worked non-stop all through the Christmas break, so much appreciated, Tony. Thanks for everything that you do. And he said it's great to see new faces here tonight. Please remember, we're here for us all. If you've got any stories or ideas for shows or want to get involved in any way, please get in touch. We appreciate your support. Please come back soon and spread the word. We need you all to expand. So I know we've got quite a few new people coming on board, but we're always looking for more people. The more of us are together, pulling in the same direction. Yes, we're a group of disparate souls. We don't agree on everything. We can't possibly agree on everything. But we agree that we're fighting for the same aims and ends. And we're going to do it together or die trying. So that's our take on it.
Wise words there, Andy. That's quite deep.
Me?
Yeah, well, when you look at it, right, people who are victims don't trust people. That's where you lose trust in people. And so it's quite right that a lot of people in this movement don't trust each other because they've been shat on. But I mean, at the end of the day, there's a common, as Mick was saying, there's a common enemy. And to apply a common enemy, we need common sense, and common sense, that's what common law is, and that's what we need to apply to these people. And we need to stand together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on the subject of Tom, Tom was in court just before Christmas again. Is there any way you can give us a quick update? Are you up to speed with what happened there, Guy?
Yeah. I mean, I sat with Tom throughout it all. I mean, the whole idea is that Tom went and protested on the roof of his property and said, "Wait until the police came," and then said, I've been involved in the commission of a burglary."
Yeah.
And he did this because he wants to get in front of a jury and wants to get all this criminal stuff that's going on in the civil courts exposed in front of a jury and see what they decide. And so they said, okay, so Tom admitted a burglary, but they charged him criminal damage to a couple of tiles. Now, so he then produced evidence of a burglary because he'd taken something from the property at the court. They refused to accept it. And so we had a trial in the magistrates' court. And he had a trial in the magistrates' court and in front of a district judge. And, of course, it was gate-kept and to the point where he lost, which is what we expected. So he then appealed to the Crown Court. Now, when you appeal to the Crown Court, from the magistrates, you don't get a jury still. You get a judge with two magistrates. And so that's what happened in the court last week. So we expected to lose that, but of course, everything in the Crown Court is on the record. It's all recorded, unlike the Magistrates' Court. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to get all this on the record. And then when it's on the record, as it is now, Tom then appeals it to the Supreme Court, I think we're going to next, I'm not sure. Okay. On the issues of what happened in the case. And then, of course, we had a judge who sat there with two magistrates saying that Tom didn't have lawful excuse. And, of course, all the evidence suggested he did. There wasn't a warrant. The land registry documents were incomplete. There was no evidence of a fee being paid. So in all different areas, we could prove that there was something wrong in the system. But of course, the judge said she couldn't go behind the verdict of go behind the county court's orders, even though they weren't supported by the correct documentation, seals, fees, etc. So what we've got really is we've got the fact that where Tom was pleading lawful excuse. So he wasn't pleading guilty or not guilty. He was pleading lawful excuse. Mm. And what we've got with pleading lawful excuse is that the judiciary have got a conflict of interest in making a decision on lawful excuse. So it should be left to a jury, which is what we wanted in the first instance. So, what we do is we're blocking the machinery up and asking questions, and that's what everyone should be doing.
Yeah, great idea. So, Andy.
Yeah, you've gone blank as well, have you, Jason?
Completely blank.
We're coming to the end of the show now, so obviously we'll get our guests to give out any links they have before the end of the show. I'd just like to say thanks to everyone again for this year and for all your support. It's been absolutely tremendous. And what is so special for me is when we go to meetups and people come up, shake your hand and say, well, I've been listening to you on the radio. It's absolutely fabulous. So if you're at any of the meetups and you see me or Jason, come along and say hello, please. It's always great to meet people who listen to us. We've got a great lineup for January. It's a bit strange for us, though. I can't recall another month where we had this situation, but we've got a full menu of guests booked in, but we've got nobody from this Emerald Isle. We've got the 3rd of January, we've got Rob Halford all the way from Australia. I think we might get a few swear words in there, but Rob's always got some interesting points to make. Then on the 10th, we've got Roger Landry from over in the USA. The 17th, we have a 17-year oncology nurse who walked away from the job because she was horrified at what she was seeing. That'll be Valerie Warwick. Thanks to Kev for sorting that one out for us. Great work Kev does behind the scenes as well. Thank you, Super Kev. Then on the 24th, we've got Brian Porter from Canada, who's started his own his own media outlet called Making a Difference TV, and from what I understand, Jason and I will be on there. You'll be able to see us in video. That's scary, isn't it? And Brian's going to come on and have a chat with us about that before we get that lined up, and then we'll be rounding out January on the 31st with Maria Heller. I'm sure a lot of you have heard a lot about Maria Heller. She's been in this game a long time, and we're looking forward to speaking to her. So, back to our guest for tonight. Paula, have you got any links that you can give out where people can find any information about your stuff, and we can include those in the podcast so that people can check up when they find this later?
I haven't at the moment, I'm afraid. I'm going to be putting something out during January.
No worries. Is it best if we link people up to your Facebook, Paula?
Yeah, if they can look at me on Facebook, and there's a few things on there, videos, etc.
Okay, yeah, I'll put a link to your Facebook then, and that'll let people keep up with what you're doing.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, excellent. Guy, have you got any links to any information or websites you'd like to give out?
We're getting a website up and running for January, which I'll let you know about, Andy. But I mean, I'm on Twitter on Magna Cartman, and there's a Guy Taylor Forbidden Law and Guy Taylor Issues. 2 pages going on, a page and a membership thing. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll put those links in the podcast so that people can keep up with what you're doing as well, Guy.
Nice one, mate.
So all that remains for me, we're getting near the end of the show, is just thanks everyone. This year has been absolutely a roller coaster ride. There's been some incredible highs, but with each one of those incredible highs, there also does seem to be a kick in the teeth just waiting around the corner. So, but without those lows, you couldn't have the highs, could you? So bring it on. Let's have more of the same. Let's hope there's more highs and a few less lows. So thanks everyone for listening. Thank you to Paula and Peter and Guy. Thanks, Jason. And thanks to everyone who's put in all the hard work. Thanks to all the other hosts. Thanks to those that are on board with us now. And thanks to those that will be joining us in the near future. And like I say, if you'd like to get involved, drop me a line, andy@raconteursnews.com, and we'll see what we can find. So thanks everyone for listening, and don't forget Doc Rock is on air with the Dr. Rock's radio show at 9 p.m. tomorrow night, and we'll be back next Tuesday next year with Rob Halford. And no, he's not the Judas Priest guy. So thank you very much, Paula. You've been very brave coming on and speaking about this tonight, and I wish you all the success in the coming year.
Same to you.
Yep, here, yeah.
And
let's have some fun with it next year.
Absolutely. And Guy, more power to your elbow, mate. You're doing a great job there.
Onwards and upwards, chaps.
That's it. So thanks everyone, and we're going to call it
starting to see a conspiracy been fooling me. When I watch TV, they're manufactured views all over the news. It's giving me the blues, and it's time to choose. Starting to wake up from this sleep, from all the lies they spread that run so deep. But I will laze no more. Who are they fighting for? It isn't me. But now I see there is a new world order, but we're not invited. So much blood and murder from the drones unsighted. World War III is haunting me. I've got to find a way to save my family. The human race has lost its way. We put our trust in science, but it's us who pay. Used to be civilized, but we've been compromised. We're on a one-way train. We've got to break this chain. Starting to see that we should be free. The powers that be want a piece of me. Should I do what they say or tell them go away? What is the price for freedom? 'Cause it sure ain't free. The time has come to raise the bar. There'll be nowhere to hide if there's a third world war. So let your voice be heard and let your heart decide to stand and fight for freedom while you've still got time. Wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up. Stand, stand up. Stand up, stand up. Wake up, wake up. The time has come to fight. Wake up, wake up. Don't waste another night. Stand up, stand up. What are you waiting for? Stand up, stand up. Oh, they're gonna soon be at your door.